The day my mother called me selfish was the day I stopped being her daughter. I was 17, standing in our kitchen with my college acceptance letter still warm in my hands, when she delivered the verdict that would shape the next decade of my life. My name is Felicity, and that summer changed everything. I had just been accepted into Harvard Business School's early admission program, my dream school, my ticket out. But apparently, that didn't matter as much as babysitting my bratty 15-year-old cousin Tessa during our annual family vacation to the Maldives. "What do you mean you can't watch Tessa?" Mom's voice carried that familiar edge of disappointment. "She needs supervision while Barry attends his business meetings." "Mom, I have 3 scholarship essays due next week. I can't spend my days chasing after Tessa while she shops and takes selfies." "Felicity." She set down her coffee mug with deliberate slowness. "Family comes first. Always." "My future comes first," I countered, gripping the acceptance letter tighter. "Harvard isn't just going to wait around while I—" "Oh, enough about Harvard." She threw her hands up. "You're being selfish. Tessa needs you. Barry needs you. The family needs you." "I'm not being selfish. I'm being practical. Tessa's old enough to— If you won't help with Tessa, then don't bother coming on the trip at all." The kitchen fell silent. Even the humming refrigerator seemed to hold its breath. "You don't mean that," I whispered. "I do." Her eyes were steel. "Either you help with Tessa or you stay home." I lifted my chin. "Fine, I'll stay home." "Excuse me?" "I said I'll stay home. I'll work on my essays, apply for more scholarships, and prepare for my future. You can all go have fun in the Maldives without me." Mom's laugh was sharp and hollow. "Oh, sweetie, this isn't just about this summer. If you choose your precious essays over family now, don't expect to be included in any family trips going forward." "That's ridiculous," I said, but my voice shook. "You can't just—" "I can, and I will. Actions have consequences, Felicity. It's time you learned that." She was right about one thing. Actions did have consequences. That summer, while they posted pictures from their beachfront villa, I worked 2 jobs and finished my scholarship applications. When they went skiing in Aspen that winter, I was interviewing for internships. Year after year, their vacation photos appeared on social media without me in them. My sister Sophie would sometimes call, her voice quiet and apologetic. "Mom's being stubborn," she'd say. "Give her time." But time only hardened the divide. I threw myself into my studies, then my career. Every exclusion, every missed family moment became fuel for my ambition. I worked harder, climbed higher, until success wasn't just a goal, it was my revenge. Now, 16 years later, I sat in my office overlooking the crystal clear waters of my own luxury resort, staring at a reservation that had just landed on my desk. The name jumped out at me like a slap: Powell Wise Family Reunion, Party of 7. My mother, my sister, Uncle Barry, Tessa, and the others had no idea they'd just booked their summer vacation at my resort. They didn't know I owned this slice of paradise, or that I'd built it from the ground up. They probably thought I was still that selfish teenager who chose ambition over family. Walker, my business partner, leaned against my desk. "You could just cancel their reservation." "No," I smiled, running my finger over the confirmation letter. "I want them to see exactly what their selfish little girl accomplished." "Felicity," he gave me that look, the one that said I was playing with fire. "Don't worry," I said, standing to face the window. "I'm not going to make a scene. I'm just going to give them the best vacation of their lives and watch their faces when they realize who's been hosting them." My phone buzzed. Another booking notification. I glanced at it and froze. The dates finally registered in my mind. They'd booked their stay over July 15th, my mother's 60th birthday. I laughed, the sound echoing off the glass walls of my office. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. "Should I be concerned about that laugh?" Walker asked. "Not at all," I replied, already planning the welcome champagne, The suite upgrades, the special birthday arrangements. I'm just going to give my mother exactly what she deserves, the birthday surprise of a lifetime. The Powell Wise party arrives in exactly 1 week, Walker announced, dropping a stack of files on my desk. Are you absolutely sure about this? I was inspecting the newly renovated beachfront villa, the one I specifically assigned to my family. The ocean breeze carried the scent of plumeria through the open windows as I adjusted a throw pillow for the 100th time. Stop asking me that, I said, moving to straighten a painting. I've been sure about this for 16 years. It's just... Walker hesitated, following me onto the villa's private deck. This isn't just any week. It's your mother's birthday celebration. I'm aware. And you don't think that might make things more explosive? I turned to face him. What's your point? My point is that revenge served cold is one thing. Revenge served on your mother's 60th birthday might be nuclear. A staff member appeared at the door, clipboard in hand. Ms. Felicity, the special order champagne has arrived. Where would you like it stored? In the main cellar, please. And make sure the 82 Bordeaux is ready for the birthday dinner. After the staff member left, Walker raised an eyebrow. Expensive wine? That doesn't sound very vengeful. The best revenge is success, Walker. I want them to see exactly what I've built while they were busy excluding me from their perfect little family vacations. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophie. Hey sis, wish you could join us next week. Missing you. I ignored it, just like I'd ignored the last dozen similar messages. Sophie meant well, but she'd never stood up to Mom, never challenged the status quo. Her quiet support meant nothing when she still participated in my exclusion. Speaking of family, Walker said, watching me pocket my phone, your sister's been trying to reach you. I know. You could tell her you'll be here. And ruin the surprise? Where's the fun in that? I walked back inside, checking the amenities list. Besides, she's part of this too. She could have refused to go on these trips without me, but she didn't. Walker picked up a framed photo from the side table, one I'd specifically placed there. It showed my family in the Maldives, the vacation I'd missed because I wouldn't babysit Tessa. They were all smiling, sun-kissed and happy, not a care in the world about the daughter they left behind. You know what this reminds me of? Walker set down the photo. Remember that investor who tried to steal your initial business plan? The one you could have destroyed but chose to work with instead? That was different. Was it? Because you told me then that success was the best revenge too. But you didn't just show him your success. You turned him into an ally. Made more money that way. I stopped my inspection rounds. Are you suggesting I try to reconcile with them? I'm suggesting that maybe there's more than one way to win this game. Before I could respond, my tablet chimed with an alert. I pulled up the message and felt my breath catch. They've added a note to their reservation. They want to book the private dining room for a special birthday dinner. Guest count 15. 15? Walker frowned. I thought it was 7. They've invited extended family. I scrolled through the updated guest list, recognizing names I hadn't heard in years. Aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone except me, apparently. Felicity? No. I held up a hand. Don't. This just proves I'm right. They're still excluding me, still pretending I don't exist. Well, they're about to find out just how wrong they've been about me all these years. I strode to the villa's bar and grabbed a bottle of water, trying to calm my racing heart. Make sure everything is perfect for their arrival. I want them to be completely relaxed, totally at ease. Then, when they're settling in for their first dinner, you'll make your grand entrance? Something like that. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. After all, what kind of host would I be if I didn't personally welcome such important guests? Walker sighed, picking up his files. Just remember, you built this place to be a paradise. Don't turn it into a battlefield. As he left, I walked out onto the deck again, watching the sunset paint the ocean in shades of gold and pink. In just 7 days, my family would be standing here, admiring the same view. They'd be amazed by the luxury, impressed by the service, completely unaware that their black sheep daughter was the architect of their perfect vacation. Until I chose to reveal myself. I pulled out my phone and finally replied to Sophie's text. Don't worry about me. I have a feeling this will be a birthday Mom never forgets. I watched their arrival from my office's hidden observation deck, heart pounding as the resort's luxury shuttle pulled up to the entrance. Mom stepped out first, still elegant at 60, her designer sunglasses perched perfectly on her nose. Sophie followed, then Uncle Barry helping Tessa with her mountain of luggage. They're here, Walker announced unnecessarily through my earpiece. I can see that. I adjusted my resort manager's blazer. How's the welcome champagne? Chilled and ready. Are you sure you want to do the initial greeting yourself? Absolutely. I took a deep breath. Time to make an entrance. I rode the private elevator down to the lobby, timing my arrival just as they finished checking in. The marble floors echoed with my heels as I approached the front desk, where my mother was already questioning the staff about dinner reservations. Welcome to Paradise Cove, I said, my voice carrying across the lobby. I trust your journey was comfortable? Mom turned, the polite smile freezing on her face as recognition hit her. She stumbled back slightly, catching herself on the counter. Felicity? Mrs. Powell, I replied smoothly, extending my hand. As resort manager, I personally welcome all our VIP guests. The lobby fell silent. Sophie's mouth hung open. Tessa clutched her phone mid-selfie, and Uncle Barry's luggage slipped from his grip, thudding onto the marble floor. Resort? Manager? Mom's voice wavered. Among other things, I gestured to the waiting staff. Please, allow us to escort you to your villa. We've prepared welcome refreshments. Mom's shock quickly morphed into something else, that familiar calculating look I'd grown up with. You work here? Not exactly. I led them toward the beachfront path, enjoying every click of my heels against the wooden boardwalk. I own this place. The sound of someone choking behind me was probably Uncle Barry. Inside the villa, champagne was already being poured as the family scattered around the living room, still processing my presence. Sophie kept shooting me uncertain smiles, while Tessa hadn't looked up from her phone, probably already posting about this dramatic turn of events. This is unexpected, Mom finally said, gripping her champagne flute too tightly. Is it? I perched on the arm of a chair. 16 years is a long time to wonder what happened to your daughter. We didn't wonder, she replied sharply. You chose to distance yourself. Did I? I smiled, all teeth. I seem to remember being told I wasn't welcome on family vacations unless I agreed to be Tessa's personal babysitter. That's not, Mom started, but Uncle Barry cut her off. Wait, what? That's why Felicity stopped coming on trips? It's ancient history, Mom waved her hand dismissively. What matters is that Felicity has apparently done, well, for herself. Her tone suggested she was still deciding if that was a good thing. Very well, I confirmed, standing. Paradise Cove is one of the top-rated luxury resorts in the Pacific. We're booked solid year-round, and our waiting list is months long. Then why accept our reservation? Sophie finally spoke up. Because family comes first. I echoed Mom's old words back to her. Always. The silence that followed was delicious. Well, I continued, moving toward the door, I'll let you all get settled. Your dinner reservation is at 7 in our main restaurant. I've taken the liberty of arranging something special. Felicity, wait, Sophie called out, but I was already closing the door behind me. Walker was waiting outside. That went well. That was just the appetizer. I started walking back to my office. Wait until they see what I have planned for dinner. I saw your mother's face. He fell into step beside me. She looked shocked, impressed, horrified, scared, he said quietly, like she's waiting for the other shoe to drop. Good. I stopped at the elevator. She should be. Felicity, Don't start, Walker. This is just beginning. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding. By the way, did you confirm the photographer for Mom's birthday dinner? Yes, but perfect. I stepped into the elevator. Make sure they get plenty of shots of everyone's faces when I give my toast. As the doors closed, I caught a glimpse of my family's villa in the distance. Through the windows, I could see them all huddled together, probably discussing what just happened. Mom was gesturing animatedly, Sophie looked worried, and Tessa was finally looking up from her phone, staring in my direction with an unreadable expression. Let them talk. Let them worry. They had no idea what I had planned for the next few days. After all, revenge, like fine wine, only gets better with age. I was reviewing the evening's dinner arrangements when someone knocked on my office door. Sophie stood there, looking exactly like she did when we were kids, and she'd sneak into my room after one of Mom's lectures. Can we talk? She asked. I'm rather busy. I gestured at the papers on my desk. Please? She stepped inside anyway. This is the first time I've seen you in person in, 5 years? 4 years? 8 months? Your wedding. I set down my pen. You know, the one where Mom seated me at the back with the college friends you haven't spoken to since freshman year. Sophie winced. I didn't know about the seating arrangement until... Save it. I stood up, walking to the window. What do you want, Sophie? I want to understand. This place, it's incredible. Why didn't you tell me? Would it have mattered? Would you have stopped going on the family trips if you knew? Before she could answer, another voice cut in. Excuse me, is this a bad time? A man stood in my doorway, tall, tanned, with the kind of smile that probably got him out of speeding tickets. I recognized him from the guest registry. Connor, staying in the oceanfront suite for a week. Mr. Garrett. I straightened. How can I help you? Please, call me Connor. He glanced between Sophie and me. I was hoping to discuss extending my stay, but I can come back. No need. I turned to Sophie. We're done here. We're not, Sophie insisted. And you know it. Connor cleared his throat. I actually have a dinner reservation in 20 minutes. Perhaps I could come back tomorrow? Something about his diplomatic tone made me pause. Join us for dinner instead. I was just about to head down to inspect the service anyway. Sophie's eyes widened. Felicity? Perfect, Connor smiled. Though I hope I'm not interrupting a family reunion. Actually, I said, you're providing a welcome buffer for one. The restaurant was already filling up when we arrived. I spotted my mother at our family's reserved table, watching us with narrowed eyes as we approached with Connor. Mom, I said sweetly, I hope you don't mind if we join you. Mr. Garrett here is one of our most valued guests. Of course not, she replied with equally false sweetness. We always have room for friends. Tessa looked up from her phone for the first time since arriving. Wait, aren't you that guy from the fitness app commercials? Connor laughed, guilty as charged. Though I prefer to think of myself as a tech entrepreneur who occasionally gets roped into marketing. Fascinating, Mom cut in. Felicity, dear, I was just telling everyone about how surprised we are to find you here. Who would have thought our little rebel would end up in hospitality? I signaled the waiter for wine. Life is full of surprises, isn't it? Like finding out your daughter owns one of the most exclusive resorts in the Pacific, rather than just working here. Uncle Barry choked on his water. Owns? Tessa's eyes went wide. Like, for real? For real, I confirmed, as the sommelier appeared with a bottle of ridiculously expensive Bordeaux. I built this place from the ground up. Every detail, every design choice, every luxury amenity, all me. With investors, surely, Mom interjected. Actually, Connor spoke up, Paradise Cove is famous for being independently owned. It was a major talking point when I was researching vacation spots. He turned to me. I had no idea I was dining with the founder herself. Mom's smile tightened. How lovely that our Felicity has made such interesting connections. Speaking of connections, I said, Tessa, how's college? Still studying fashion design? How did you know that? Tessa blinked. I make it my business to know everything about my guests. I sipped my wine, including the fact that Mom's birthday dinner this weekend will have 15 people, not 7. The table fell silent. You should join us, Sophie blurted out, for Mom's birthday dinner. You're here anyway, and I'll be there, I interrupted. I'm hosting it after all. Mom set down her fork with a clang. You're what? Hosting. I've arranged everything. The menu, the wine pairings, the entertainment. Consider it 16 years of missed birthday presents rolled into one. How thoughtful. Mom's voice could have frozen the tropical air around us. Connor cleared his throat. The food here is exceptional. I particularly recommend the sea bass. As conversation reluctantly turned to safer topics, I caught Sophie watching me with a mixture of concern and curiosity. She'd seen something in my expression, something that worried her. Good, because the birthday dinner wasn't just going to be a celebration, it was going to be a reckoning. And I had the perfect toast prepared. The private dining room buzzed with conversation as 15 members of my extended family settled in for Mom's birthday dinner. I stood at the entrance, watching them fawn over the elaborate decorations, the custom menu cards, the crystal champagne flutes, all carefully chosen to showcase exactly what their outcast daughter had achieved. Quite the turnout. Connor appeared beside me, adjusting his tie. Thanks for the last-minute invitation. Thanks for accepting. I needed a friendly face in the crowd. Ready to watch the show? Is that what this is? Before I could respond, Mom clinked her glass, commanding attention like she always did. Before we begin, I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate my 60th birthday. And... She paused, looking directly at me. Thank you, Felicity, for this unexpected hospitality. Oh, I'm just getting started, I smiled, moving to the head of the table. Would anyone like to see some photos of the resort's development? I had them specially prepared for tonight. Walker, right on cue, dimmed the lights as a screen descended from the ceiling. The first image appeared, a younger me, standing on an undeveloped beach, blueprints in hand. This was day 1, I said, when it was just empty beach and a dream, and a trust fund I'd been saving since I was 17. Mom's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. The next slide showed construction beginning. I lived in a trailer on site for 2 years, overseeing every detail. This was during the summer of 2015. I believe you were all in Bali that year. Aunt Margaret shifted uncomfortably. Uncle Barry suddenly became very interested in his napkin. And here, another slide, is opening day. We were fully booked within hours of announcing our launch. The same day, actually, that the family was posting photos from that ski trip in Aspen. Felicity, Sophie warned quietly. But my favorite photo, I continued, as the next image appeared, is this one. The screen showed a familiar scene, my family on a beach, all smiles and sunburns. The vacation I'd missed because I wouldn't babysit Tessa. Where did you get that? Mom's voice shook slightly. It was on social media. Public post. I've kept every photo from every vacation I wasn't invited to. 16 years worth. Tessa put down her phone. Is that why I found all those old vacation albums in my suite? You did what? Mom snapped. I thought our guests might enjoy some light reading. I signaled the servers to begin serving dinner. I had copies made, one for each room. That's enough! Mom stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. I don't know what game you're playing. Game? I laughed. This isn't a game, Mom. This is karma. This is what happens when you cast out your daughter for daring to have ambitions beyond babysitting. I never cast you out. I chose to prioritize my future over being Tessa's unpaid nanny, and you punished me for it, for 16 years. The room fell silent except for the gentle clink of servers placing plates. Is that true? Tessa looked at her father. Is that why Felicity stopped coming on trips? Uncle Barry wouldn't meet her eyes. It was complicated. It wasn't complicated at all, I said. Mom gave me an ultimatum. Babysit or be excluded. I chose exclusion. And look where it got me. Where it got you, Mom's voice was ice, is bitter and alone in your big, empty resort, orchestrating elaborate revenge plots instead of simply talking to your family. Talking? I stepped closer to her. Like when I tried to talk to you after graduation, or when I tried to explain why I couldn't watch Tessa, or maybe like when I sent you my business plan and you returned it unopened. I returned it because you were being stubborn. I was being ambitious. Ladies, Connor stood up, his voice calm but firm. Perhaps we should stay out of this. Mom and I snapped simultaneously. No, he said, surprising us both. Look around. This is supposed to be a celebration, but you're both so focused on winning that you can't see what you're losing. I followed his gesture to see Sophie crying silently, Tessa staring at her lap, Uncle Barry looking years older than he had at check-in. Felicity, Walker appeared at my elbow. There's an urgent call from the mainland about tomorrow's shipment. There wasn't. It was our predetermined escape signal if things got too heated. I took it. Enjoy your dinner, I said, straightening my jacket. The resort's signature chocolate souffle will be served for dessert. It's made with the same recipe I was working on the summer I wasn't invited to the Maldives. As I walked out, I heard Mom's quiet voice. What have we done? But I didn't stop. I couldn't. Because if I stopped now, I'd have to admit that revenge didn't taste nearly as sweet as I'd imagined. I was in my office, staring at weather reports warning of an approaching storm, when someone knocked. Not Walker's usual quick rap or Sophie's hesitant tap. This was determined, steady. Come in, Tessa. My cousin stepped inside, looking different from the phone-obsessed girl who'd arrived days ago. She carried one of the photo albums I'd planted in their rooms. How'd you know it was me? Security cameras. I pointed to the monitor on my desk. Plus, you're the only one brave enough to face me after last night's dinner. About that, she sat down without being invited. I've been looking through these albums, all the vacations, all the photos, 16 years of them. Quite the collection, isn't it? It's messed up, she said bluntly. What they did to you, what I did to you. I hadn't expected that. You were 15. Yeah, and I was a spoiled brat who threw tantrums until I got my way. She opened the album to a specific page. Look at this one. Me sulking because Dad wouldn't buy me a jet ski. And here's you, in the only photo I could find from that summer, studying at your desk while we were all in the Maldives. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Storm's coming, I said, trying to change the subject. Stop deflecting. Tessa leaned forward. You built all this to show them they were wrong about you, right? To prove something? I built it because I'm good at what I do. Bull. She stood up, pacing. You built it because every time they excluded you, every time they chose me over you, it made you more determined to succeed. I get it now. A knock at the door interrupted us. Walker entered, looking concerned. The storm's picking up speed, he said. We need to start moving guests inland. Already? I checked the radar. The mass of red and orange had grown significantly. It wasn't supposed to hit until tomorrow. Weather Service just upgraded it. We need to start evacuations now. My phone buzzed. A text from Connor. Entire families gathering in the main lobby. Thought you should know. Great, I muttered. Just what I need. Go, Tessa said. Be the boss. Show them exactly who you've become. The lobby was chaos when I arrived. Guests milled around nervously as my staff efficiently directed them towards safer areas. My family huddled near the check-in desk, Mom trying to take charge as usual. We need to leave immediately, she was telling Sophie. Get our things and... Nobody's leaving, I announced, striding up. The roads are already flooding. Everyone's moving to the inland building until the storm passes. You can't keep us here, Mom started. Actually, I can, and I will. This is a mandatory evacuation order for all beachfront buildings. I turned to address the crowd. Everyone, please remain calm. Our inland facility is built to withstand Category 5 hurricanes. You'll all be safe and comfortable there. She's right. Connor appeared, tablet in hand. I checked the building specs. It's one of the most secure structures in the Pacific. Mom opened her mouth to argue, but Uncle Barry cut her off. Leah, let her do her job. Her job? Mom scoffed. This is just another power play. A massive thunderclap shook the windows, making several people scream. The lights flickered. Mom, I said firmly, for once in your life, please just listen to me. Something in my voice must have reached her because she fell silent. Walker, I called out, start the evacuation protocol. VIP guests to the 3rd floor, standard rooms on 1 and 2. Full storm procedures in effect. As my staff efficiently began moving people, Tessa appeared at my elbow. What can I do to help? I looked at her in surprise. You want to help? I owe you 16 years of support. Might as well start now. For the next hour, we worked together, directing guests, distributing emergency supplies, setting up comfort stations. Tessa proved surprisingly capable, anticipating needs before they arose. Even Mom eventually stopped trying to take control and started helping distribute blankets. By midnight, everyone was safely installed in the inland building. The storm raged outside, but inside, an unexpected calm had settled over the evacuees. Families played board games in the lounges, kids built blanket forts, and my staff served hot chocolate and cookies. I found Tessa in one of the quiet corners, still clutching that photo album. You know what I realized? She said as I sat down. In all these photos, everyone's smiling, but they're not really happy. They're just pretending everything's perfect. That's what our family does best. Not anymore. She pulled out her phone, opened the camera, and scooted closer to me. Time for a new album. One with real smiles. As the flash went off, capturing our first photo together in 16 years, I heard Mom's voice behind us. Room for one more? The storm outside grew stronger, but somehow the thunder didn't seem quite so threatening anymore. The storm trapped us in the inland building for 2 days. By hour 36, with wind still howling outside, we'd run out of small talk and forced politeness. That's when the real storm hit. Inside. I still don't understand, Mom said, pacing our makeshift command center in the building's conference room. Why didn't you just tell us about the resort? Would you have believed me? I looked up from the weather reports. Or would you have assumed I was lying to get attention? That's not fair, isn't it? I turned to face her. When I told you about my business plan, you said I was being unrealistic. When I got my first investor, you told relatives I was playing entrepreneur. I was trying to protect you. From what? Success? Sophie, who'd been quietly helping sort emergency supplies, spoke up. From failing. Right, Mom? That's what this was always about. Mom sank into a chair. I didn't want you to get hurt. So you heard her first, Tessa said from the doorway. She'd been helping distribute snacks to guests. Real solid logic there, Aunt Leah. Tessa, Uncle Barry warned. No, she's right. Mom's voice cracked. I was terrified. The room fell silent except for the storm's rage outside. Terrified of what? I asked. Of you. She met my eyes. You were so bright, so determined, just like your father before he left us for his big dreams and never came back. I couldn't watch you make the same mistakes. So you made them for me? The bitterness in my voice surprised even me. Mom, Sophie interrupted, did you ever think that maybe Dad left because you tried to clip his wings too? I didn't, Mom started, but Connor chose that moment to burst in. Sorry to interrupt, he said, but we've got water seeping into the ground floor east wing. I switched immediately to crisis mode. Walker, get maintenance down there. Sophie, we need more towels. Tessa, already on it. Tessa grabbed emergency supplies. I'll start moving people up to higher floors. I'll help. Mom stood up. No. I held up my hand. You and I need to finish this conversation. Everyone else, go. As they filed out, Mom and I faced each other across the conference table. Outside, lightning flashed. You want to know why I didn't tell you about the resort? I said, because I needed to prove something to myself, not you. Every time you excluded me, every time you chose perfect family photos over your actual family, I built something stronger inside myself. I never meant to. Yes, you did. You meant to control me, to force me into your perfect family mold. But here's what you didn't expect. It worked, just not the way you planned. What do you mean? Every rejection made me more determined. Every missed vacation gave me more time to work on my dreams. You tried to clip my wings, but instead you taught me to fly through storms. Mom's eyes filled with tears. I was wrong. What? I was wrong, she repeated louder. About everything. About you. About what you could become. She gestured around us. Look at what you've built. Look at how you're handling this crisis. You're not just successful, you're extraordinary. I gripped the back of a chair, steadying myself. Don't try to make this better with a few nice words. I'm not. She stepped closer. I'm trying to admit that my biggest failure wasn't in raising a rebellious daughter. It was in not seeing that my daughter's rebellion was actually her strength. Another crack of thunder, closer this time. We should check on the guests, I said, turning away. Felicity, wait. Mom grabbed my arm. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm so proud of you. Even if you never believe another word I say, please believe that. Before I could respond, Tessa burst back in. Guys, everyone's gathering in the main hall. They're scared about the storm, and they're looking for the owner to say something reassuring. I wiped my eyes quickly. Right. Yes, of course. As I headed for the door, Mom called out, Show them who you are, sweetheart. Show them what I was too blind to see. I paused in the doorway, looking back at her. Want to come watch? She smiled through her tears. I've missed enough of your moments. I'm not missing this one. Together, we walked toward the main hall, where my family, both old and new, waited to see how I'd weather this storm. And for the first time in 16 years, I felt ready to face it with them by my side. The morning after the storm broke, I stood on the resort's main deck, surveying the damage. Palm trees were scattered like pickup sticks, and the beach had transformed into a new landscape, but the buildings stood strong, just like me. Impressive construction, Connor said, joining me at the railing. Both the buildings and the bridges you've built these past few days. That was terrible, I laughed. Do you practice those lines? Only the good ones, he smiled. Your mother's looking for you, by the way. Something about breakfast? I checked my watch. Right? The birthday breakfast we'd rescheduled after the storm disrupted our dinner plans. Want to join us? Actually, I should head out. My flight's in a few hours. Already? The storm extended my stay longer than planned. He hesitated, though I wouldn't mind coming back, if the owner approves. Before I could respond, Walker appeared with a tablet. Damage reports ready. Also, your family's gathered in the private dining room. Thanks. I turned back to Connor. The owner definitely approves. In the dining room, I found a scene I never expected. Mom arranging flowers, while Tessa helped Sophie set up a breakfast buffet. Uncle Barry was attempting to fix a twisted banner that read, Happy Birthday. Need help? I asked. We've got it, Tessa said. Though fair warning, I made the coffee and I have no idea what I'm doing. I brought backup. Walker appeared with the resort's barista and a professional coffee service. Always prepared, Mom smiled. Just like you. As we settled around the table, the morning sun streaming through windows that had weathered yesterday's storm, Sophie raised her glass. A toast? Actually, I said, I have something to say first. I pulled out an envelope. Mom, this was supposed to be part of my big revenge reveal at your birthday dinner, but, well, plans change. She opened the envelope slowly, pulling out a deed. What is this? A vacation villa, here at the resort. It's yours. Felicity, I can't. You can. And before you protest, it's not just for you. It's for all of us. I looked around the table. No more exclusive family vacations. No more choosing who's worthy of being included. This place is big enough for all our differences. Even mine, Tessa grinned, because I was thinking of doing my fashion internship somewhere tropical next summer. Don't push it, I laughed, but we both knew I meant yes. Speaking of pushing things, Sophie said, sliding a folder across the table, I have something for you too. Inside was a business proposal. Resort-based wedding planning services? I've been thinking, she said. My event planning business in the city is doing well, but maybe it's time for an expansion. If you're interested in a partnership? Partners, I tested the word. I like it. Me too, Mom said quietly. Though I hope there's room for one more partner. I may be retired, but I do have 30 years of hospitality experience. I met her eyes across the table. We'll start small, maybe consulting on the holiday programs. She nodded, understanding the olive branch for what it was. Well, Uncle Barry stood up, since we're all sharing news, Tessa, should you tell them? Or should I? Tessa bounced in her seat. We're moving. Dad's opening a new office here on the island. Really? Mom looked surprised. Really? He confirmed. After seeing what Felicity built here, well, let's just say it inspired some changes. Walker cleared his throat from the doorway. Sorry to interrupt, but the contractors are here to assess the storm damage. Go, Mom waved me off. We'll handle cleanup here. You sure? Positive. She stood up, straightening her shirt. Though I might stop by later to see how the repairs are going. If that's okay? More than okay. I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Mom? Happy birthday. Thank you, sweetheart. She smiled. Though I think you're the one who got the best gift. Your family back. No, I corrected her. We all got something better. A fresh start. As I walked through my storm-battered but standing resort, I heard laughter from the dining room behind me. Not the forced, photo-perfect laughter from those old vacation albums, but real, messy, imperfect joy. The kind that weather any storm. The kind worth waiting 16 years for. The kind that feels like home. I pulled out my phone and texted Connor. About that return visit, how does next month sound? His reply came instantly. Perfect. I hear the owner runs a pretty good resort. I smiled, looking back at my family through the dining room windows. She's learning, I typed back. She's finally learning.
I'm not your ATM, Vanessa. This has to stop. The confrontation erupted in our once peaceful living room. I, Jenna, stood defiantly before my mother-in-law, Vanessa, and my husband, Ethan. Vanessa lounged on the couch, her face a twisted mixture of surprise and contempt, while Ethan lingered awkwardly, his expression blank. This is my son's house, Jenna. I'll spend as I please. Vanessa snapped back, her voice cold and dismissive. It felt like a bad dream. Ethan and I had begun our journey together, filled with dreams and love, but those days were now just a distant echo. The man I had married, once so loving and understanding, had transformed into someone unrecognizable, parroting his mother's harsh words and ignoring my pleas. Ethan, you see this, right? You understand how wrong this is? I implored, turning to my husband, desperate for an ally. But Ethan just shrugged, his eyes void of the connection we once shared. Jenna, she's my mother. What do you expect me to do? He uttered, his voice empty of the affection that once comforted me. Realization washed over me like a cold shower. I was alone in this battle. To them, I was merely a means to an end, a dispensable part of their twisted family dynamic. I knew I had to break free. All right, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. I'll leave. And Ethan, we're done. I want a divorce. The room fell into a tense silence, the gravity of my words settling like dust. Ethan's face registered shock, a fleeting glimpse of the man I once fell in love with, but it quickly faded, replaced by an emotionless mask. Fine, Jenna, what you need to, but don't think you're walking away with anything, he responded, his tone icy. I walked to the door, each step lighter than the last, leaving behind the oppressive weight of this house. Vanessa's voice, laced with malice, trailed after me. Goodbye, Jenna. We'll be just fine without your drama. I didn't glance back. Exiting that house marked the end of a painful chapter and the beginning of an uncertain yet liberating journey. The cool evening breeze felt like freedom, washing over me with promises of a new beginning. I had no clear plan for what lay ahead, but I was certain of one thing: I would never allow myself to be diminished or disrespected again. This was the start of my story, on my own terms. Walking away from Ethan and Vanessa, my mind involuntarily drifted back to the beginnings of our story, contrasting sharply with the bitter end. I first met Ethan at work, where his charm and wit quickly captivated me. Our office romance blossomed into a deep connection, or so I thought. We shared dreams of a future together, dreams that now lay shattered at my feet. Our courtship was a whirlwind of affection and promises. Ethan often spoke of his difficult upbringing, raised solely by Vanessa after his father's departure. I saw a vulnerability in him that resonated with me, as I too had faced my share of hardships. But the Ethan I knew then was not the man I had just left behind. The first warning sign came the day I met Vanessa. Her demeanor was cold, her words sharp. "Ethan could do better," she had said, scrutinizing me with a judgmental gaze. Ethan, instead of defending me, chuckled nervously and changed the subject. I brushed it off, attributing it to first meeting nerves. How wrong I was. Our wedding plans were modest, but Ethan's excitement was palpable. He wanted a big celebration, to make up for the lackluster moments of his childhood. I admired his desire to turn past pains into joyful memories. But as the wedding drew closer, our differences became more pronounced. I had risen to a managerial position at work, a fact that Ethan initially celebrated. But soon his support turned to envy. Conversations about my work achievements became strained, and Ethan's demeanor grew cold. He started suggesting I should leave my job to focus on our home life, echoing Vanessa's archaic views on marriage. Then came the ultimatum. "You need to choose, Jenna. Your career or our family," Ethan said one evening, his tone unyielding. "But why can't I have both? Why does it have to be a choice?" I responded, bewildered by his demand. Vanessa, who had increasingly become a permanent fixture in our home, chimed in. "A woman's place is in the home, Jenna. You're neglecting your duties as a wife." Their words stung like a slap. I realized then that their vision of our future was vastly different from mine. They wanted a version of me that fit their narrow expectations, a version I could never be. The final straw was Ethan's announcement of Vanessa moving in with us permanently. A decision made without my consent, a blatant disregard for our partnership. I felt like a stranger in my own home, my opinions and feelings irrelevant. As these memories flooded back, anger and hurt surged within me. How could I have been so blind? How could I have ignored the glaring signs of Ethan's inability to stand up to Vanessa? I was nothing more than a means to an end for them, a convenient addition to their twisted family dynamic. But no more. The Jenna that walked away from that house was not the same one who entered it. I was stronger now, wiser, and fueled by a desire for retribution. Ethan and Vanessa would soon learn that their actions had consequences they could never have anticipated. I was determined to make them pay for every tear, every moment of self-doubt they had caused me. My journey of revenge had just begun. The days following my departure from Ethan and Vanessa's grip were a blur of emotions. As I navigated my newfound freedom, the memory of Vanessa moving into our home replayed in my mind, marking the beginning of my unraveling. It was a sunny afternoon when Ethan casually mentioned his mother would be staying with us for a while. The news caught me off guard, but I tried to remain understanding. Vanessa had always been a looming presence in our marriage, but living with her was a challenge I hadn't anticipated. From the day she arrived, Vanessa made it clear that she considered the house her domain. "This place could use a woman's touch, and clearly, you're not up to the task, Jenna," she remarked on her first day, eyeing the decor disdainfully. Her criticism wasn't limited to the house. She found fault in everything I did, from my cooking to the way I dressed. "Ethan, how do you tolerate such bland meals?" she would say, scrunching her nose at the dinners I prepared. Ethan, instead of defending me, would nod in agreement, his silence a dagger to my heart. Her extravagant spending was the most egregious. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry, and lavish parties became the norm. She used the money I earned as though it were hers by right. "A little luxury never hurt anyone, Jenna. You should try it sometime. Maybe then you'd understand. Vanessa sneered one evening, flaunting her new diamond necklace. I tried discussing this with Ethan, but he dismissed my concerns. Mom's had a tough life, Jenna. She deserves to enjoy herself, he said, ignoring the financial strain her indulgences put on us. The situation reached a boiling point when Vanessa decided to renovate the kitchen without consulting me. It's just so outdated, Jenna. We need a space more fitting for our lifestyle, she declared, as contractors roamed our home estimating costs. But this is our home, not just yours. You can't just make these decisions without talking to us. I protested, my frustration boiling over. Vanessa laughed, a cold, harsh sound that echoed in the hollow space that used to be my sanctuary. Oh, Jenna, when will you learn? This is my son's house, and what I say goes. You're just living here. Ethan's response, or lack thereof, shattered any remaining illusions I had about our relationship. He stood by, a passive observer, as his mother bulldozed over my feelings and our shared life. That night, lying in bed, I realized the full extent of their betrayal. They didn't see me as a partner or even a person. I was just a convenient accessory in their lives, easily discarded and replaced. But I refused to be a victim any longer. As Vanessa's words echoed in my head, a plan began to form. They thought they could control me, use me for their own gain, but they were gravely mistaken. I would take back control, reclaim my life, and in doing so, I would ensure that Vanessa and Ethan felt the sting of their actions, a sting that would leave a lasting mark. My revenge would be meticulous, calculated, and, most importantly, deserved. They had underestimated me for the last time. The weeks that followed were a crescendo of tension and silent battles. Living under the same roof with Ethan and Vanessa, I felt like a stranger in a home that once held the promise of love and companionship. But the true tipping point came unexpectedly, on a day that should have been about celebration, my birthday. The morning of my birthday, I woke up to an empty house. There were no signs of celebration, not even a note. I tried to brush off the disappointment, reminding myself that expecting anything from Ethan and Vanessa was futile. The day dragged on with an eerie quietness until the evening when even Ethan and Vanessa returned, bubbling with excitement. "We have great news. Jenna!" Ethan exclaimed as they barged in, ignoring my evident dejection. Vanessa's eyes sparkled with a malicious glee. "We're going on a trip, a week in the Bahamas. Just think of the sun, the beaches, the luxury." I stood there, dumbfounded. "You're going on a trip? On my birthday? You didn't even remember." Ethan waved off my shock. "Oh, is it today? Well, happy birthday then. But listen, this trip is going to be amazing. Mom and I have been planning it for weeks." Vanessa chimed in, her voice dripping with faux sympathy. "Oh, Jenna, don't be so childish. Birthdays are just another day. Besides, you should be happy for us. We deserve this break." Their blatant disregard for me, on what should have been a special day, was the final straw. Anger bubbled inside me, a fiery blend of betrayal and hurt. "You're using my money for this trip, aren't you? The money I work hard for." Ethan shrugged, a dismissive gesture that ignited my fury. "Well, someone has to pay for it, and since you're the only one working." Vanessa laughed, a sound that sent chills down my spine. "Honestly, Jenna, you should be grateful. We're spending your money on something worthwhile. It's not like you have any better use for it." Their words hit me like a physical blow. The audacity to use my hard-earned money for their frivolous pleasures while disregarding my feelings was appalling. I realized then that I was nothing more than a financial resource to them, a means to fund their lavish desires. "I can't believe this. You two are unbelievable," I shouted, my voice trembling with rage. "Calm down, Jenna. It's just money, and it's not like you're doing anything important with it," Ethan said, his tone patronizing. Vanessa smirked, adding insult to injury. "Exactly. Be a good wife and support your husband and his mother. That's your role, after all." Their words echoed in my mind, a cruel reminder of how little they valued me. But their smug faces, their condescending tones ignited something within me. A resolve, a burning desire for retribution. "This is it. I'm done. I refuse to be your personal ATM, your doormat." "You'll regret treating me this way," I vowed, my voice steady with newfound determination. Ethan and Vanessa exchanged amused glances, clearly underestimating the depth of my resolve. But I knew, at that moment, that my journey of revenge had truly begun. They had pushed me to my limits, and now they would face the consequences of their actions. In the days following my decision, I moved into a modest hotel, a temporary sanctuary as I plotted my next steps. The betrayal by Ethan and Vanessa had left a bitter taste, but it also fueled a fire within me, a desire to reclaim my life and exact revenge. I began by consulting a lawyer, meticulously laying out the years of financial exploitation and emotional abuse. The lawyer listened intently, occasionally nodding, his expression a mix of disbelief and sympathy. "We have a strong case here, Jenna. It's clear that you've been taken advantage of. Let's start with filing for divorce and freezing the joint accounts," he suggested. With each step, I felt a piece of my old self return, the Jenna who was confident, who wouldn't let anyone walk over her. I was no longer the woman who tolerated disrespect and manipulation. A few weeks into my hotel stay, my phone rang. It was Ethan, his voice laced with panic. "Jenna, where are you? The bank accounts are frozen, and we can't access any funds." I couldn't help but smile, a cold, satisfying grin. "Oh, Ethan, I'm taking back what's mine. You and your mother can't use me as your personal cash machine anymore." There was a pause, and then Ethan's voice grew desperate. "Jenna, please, you're overreacting. Let's talk about this. We're a family, after all." Family. The word echoed mockingly in my ears. "No, Ethan, we were never a family. You chose your mother over your wife, and now you must face the consequences." As I ended the call, a sense of empowerment washed over me. This was just the beginning. Vanessa and Ethan had underestimated me for far too long. They thought they could control and use me, but I was about to show them just how wrong they were. The next phase of my plan involved exposing their true characters. I reached out to mutual friends and colleagues, sharing my story. The reactions were a mix of shock and support. "I always knew Vanessa was difficult, but I had no idea it was this bad," a former colleague said, her voice filled with indignation. Word spread, and soon Ethan and Vanessa's social standing began to crumble. Invitations dwindled, and their once bustling social life faltered. I watched from the sidelines, a bittersweet satisfaction in seeing them isolated, a taste of their own medicine. But the true revenge was yet to come. I had one last card to play, one that would ensure Ethan and Vanessa would never forget the price of their actions. The final move was a legal stroke of genius. Through my lawyer, I initiated a case to claim back the funds Vanessa had squandered. The evidence was overwhelming, and the law was on my side. The day we received the court's decision in my favor was the day I truly felt vindicated. Ethan's pleas for forgiveness and Vanessa's attempts to negotiate fell on deaf ears. They had made their bed, and now they had to lie in it. The financial strain was just a start. I wanted them to feel the same helplessness and despair they had subjected me to. As I prepared to leave the hotel and start anew, I knew that the path ahead would be challenging. But I also knew that I was no longer the same woman who walked into this situation. I was stronger, wiser, and most importantly, free. The day of reckoning had arrived. After weeks of meticulous planning and legal maneuvering, I was ready to confront Ethan and Vanessa directly. I had arranged a meeting under the guise of discussing the divorce and settlement. As I entered the cafe where we agreed to meet, I saw them sitting there, a picture of anxiety. Vanessa's face, usually so composed, was etched with worry. Ethan looked up as I approached, his eyes searching for a sign of leniency. "Jenna, thank you for agreeing to meet," Ethan started, his voice unsteady. "Look, I know things got out of hand, but we're family. Can't we just put this behind us and start over?" I couldn't help but scoff at his audacity. "Start over? After everything you and your mother have done? You must be joking." Vanessa interjected, her tone a mix of desperation and cunning. "Jenna, dear, let's be reasonable. We all made mistakes, but we can work this out. We're willing to make amends." Their pleas were a stark contrast to their earlier arrogance. It was satisfying to see them squirm, to witness the shift in power. Mistakes? You call years of manipulation and financial abuse a mistake? I retorted, my voice firm. You two have shown no remorse for your actions. Now, you will face the consequences. Ethan's face paled, a realization dawning on him. Jenna, please, we need the money, the lifestyle, the reputation. We can't lose everything. Vanessa, ever the manipulator, tried a different approach. Think about what's best for all of us, Jenna. We can still be a family. Isn't that worth more than revenge? But their words fell on deaf ears. I had seen their true colors, and there was no going back. This is no longer about money or reputation, I said, my resolve unwavering. It's about justice. You will both pay for what you've done. The court has ruled in my favor, and you will comply with its decision. The look of defeat on their faces was the vindication I had sought for so long. I stood up, ready to leave the past behind. This is where our paths diverge, Ethan and Vanessa. I hope the lessons you learn from this are profound and lasting. Goodbye. As I walked away, I didn't look back. I had turned the tables on them, reclaimed my dignity and independence. The future was uncertain, but it was mine to shape. Ethan and Vanessa were now just a part of my past, a painful chapter that had come to a close. In the aftermath of my final encounter with Ethan and Vanessa, I found myself standing at a crossroads. The chapter of my life dominated by their deceit and manipulation was closed, but the journey ahead was mine to chart. The taste of victory was sweet, yet it bore the complexity of hard-earned lessons. I had moved into a new apartment, a space that was entirely my own. The walls were yet to be decorated. The rooms still echoed with the newness, but it was a sanctuary of peace and freedom. For the first time in years, I felt in control of my destiny. Word of Ethan and Vanessa's downfall spread quickly. Their once prestigious social circle had crumbled, leaving them isolated and disgraced. The lavish lifestyle they had so greedily pursued was now a distant memory, replaced by the harsh reality of their actions. But the true reward of my journey was not in their downfall. It was in the reclaiming of my identity and the rebuilding of my life. My career, which had once been a point of contention in our marriage, flourished. I was promoted, recognized for my resilience and dedication. Colleagues who had heard of my ordeal expressed admiration and support, further fueling my drive to succeed. I often found myself reflecting on the journey. The pain and betrayal had been real, but so was the strength I discovered within myself. I had faced my fears, stood up against injustice, and emerged victorious. The final twist of fate came unexpectedly one day. As I sipped coffee in a cafe, the same one where I had last seen Ethan and Vanessa, I overheard a conversation at the next table. It was about them. They were struggling, facing legal battles and financial ruin. Vanessa, once so proud and haughty, was now a shadow of her former self, humbled by the consequences of her greed and manipulation. As I listened, I felt no joy in their suffering. Instead, I felt a sense of closure. My revenge had been served, justice had been meted out, but I no longer dwelled in the past. They were a chapter closed, a lesson learned. I finished my coffee and stepped out into the sunlight, feeling its warmth on my face. The world around me seemed brighter, filled with possibilities. I had survived the storm and was now basking in the calm that followed. As I walked down the street, I realized that my story was not defined by Ethan and Vanessa, nor by the pain they had caused. My story was about resilience, about rising from the ashes and forging a path of my own. I smiled, embracing the future with open arms. The road ahead was mine to travel, filled with hope, opportunities, and the promise of new beginnings.